as an athlete, we have dreams and goals, and I think every kid's, dream is to hopefully make it to the NFL if they're a football player, or to the NBA if you're a basketball player. And like most kids growing up, I was pretty athletic. I felt like I was pretty good in football and basketball. I would consider myself as an achiever, a person who was self-motivated. I got a chance to join the Navy when I was 18, right out of high school. And I went on to the Navy and, started to explore and grow as a man, and grow into a man. And I started to live out my life and do things that I want to do. I got a chance to model and man, work for Soft Sheen and do a lot of great things. Move to Chicago, and man, it was great growing up and experiencing life. So my 4 years of the Navy, I got out off active duty, I decided to move to Jacksonville, Florida. I wanted to move forward to another level of my life. So I said, I always had a dream of playing the NFL and playing professional football. So what I decided to do is I decided to go and try out for a semi-professional football team. And at this time, I was like, my dream is finally going to come true. See, I still had the speed, and I was pretty fast and everything. So I went out and tried out for the semi-professional team called the Jacksonville Lions, Duval Lions. And I made the semi-professional team, and I felt like, hey, I was on my way. I played my first year of semi-professional football, and it was great. I was kickoff returns and wide receiver and running back, and I was doing great. So I decided to go to NFL Combines, and I went to NFL Combines in Atlanta, Georgia, and I did very well. And the scouts said, hey, listen, we like your stats, but we want you to play one more year of semi-professional football to prove that you're consistent. So I said, okay, the scouts like me. All right, one more year of semi-professional football. So one more year of semi-professional football to really get myself to a point where I was consistent. So I was having one of the greatest seasons of my life. I was playing football, and I felt like I was even faster than I was the year before. And I remember this game like it was yesterday. I moved on to another team called the Jacksonville Wolfpack. And we were playing against a team called the Tampa Sharks. And in this particular game, I was gaining a lot of yardage. I was catching the pitches, and I was running, and I was gaining a lot of yardage, and it was so amazing. But I remember this particular play like yesterday. The coach called a 27 quick pitch. And this was a play that almost changed my life forever. So I remember I was in my stance, and the coach called the play, and the quarterback called the play, and it was like, hey, 27 quick pitches coming to you, Coleman. So I was ready. So as the ball was hiked, it was like slow motion all of a sudden. The quarterback pitched the ball to me. I caught the ball, but as I caught the ball, I stumbled. I was like 1 second behind. I stumbled. And I had a decision to make, whether I go left or do I go right and go through the middle. So instead of going to the outside, I cut to the center, and there it was, a 6'2", 260-pound linebacker. So I said, okay, I can't go inside him. So I said, you know what? Let me just go over him. So I decided to take a leap, and I jumped in the air, and we met head to head in the air, a collision, and it flipped me backwards. And I jumped up with all adrenaline rushing. I said, you can't stop me, because all adrenaline was rushing. And the game went on. I didn't feel any pain or anything, but about 2 days later, after the game that we had won, I went to sleep one night, and I woke up the next morning. I could not move from the waist down. Just imagine you going to sleep in one state, your body feeling great, and you wake up the next day and you cannot move from the waist down. Well, that's the way I felt. And when I woke up that morning, I said, oh my God, I can't feel my legs. So I had to mentally will myself to get out of bed. So I picked my leg up, my right leg up, and my left leg up, and I willed myself out of bed. I literally crawled to the bathroom. Just imagine you have to crawl to the bathroom. I crawled to the bathroom and I pulled myself up on the bathroom countertop. And I washed my face and I said, God, what is going on with my body? I can't feel my legs. So I remember having to go to work. I had to mentally will myself to do this, experiencing pain. And I remember some of my coworkers saying, like, hey, what's wrong? I said, hey, it's my back, it's so much pain. So I ended up going to the doctor, and the doctor said, hey, listen, your muscles are strained. And I thought, hey, my muscles were strained, I was dehydrated. So they gave me some pills called baclofen. And I took these pills and I felt a little better. My muscles felt a little bit better, but ultimately they really didn't work. So I had some alcohol that I really never drink, so I believe it was some E&J. So I was drinking this alcohol straight because the pain was so unbearable. And I'm drinking it. This was the only thing that was making the pain feel better. So I went to the doctor again, and they said, oh, just take some more baclofen, muscle relaxing pills. Your muscles just strain. But as days went on, I realized this is much more worse than just a muscle strain or dehydration. So I remember one night I was at home and the pain was so unbearable, I just started to shake. I could not stop shaking. I was shaking and shaking and shaking. I had a fever of 103. So I called me a cab because I could not drive, and I got in the cab, and it took me about 30 minutes just to make it down my stairs. And the cab driver said, what took you so long? I said, I can barely walk. Because every time I would move, it would hurt. It would be so much pain. And the cab driver was taking me to the hospital. I believe it was called Southern Regional Hospital in Jacksonville. I get to the hospital and say, yeah, you have to tell the nurses to come get me because I cannot move. By this time, I'm really trembling because what was happening, my body was going into shock. I was shaking uncontrollably. The nurses came out and they helped me get into the wheelchair, and I'm just like, at this time, just shaking. The nurse said, hey, you can't stop from shaking. I said, no, I cannot stop from shaking. I remember the nurse taking my temperature and the reaction she had on her face. As she looked at my temperature, it was 103. She said, oh, my God, we got to get your temperature down because if we don't, you could have a seizure and you could die. Now, when I heard those words, I knew that this was very serious. They immediately admitted me into the hospital, and they started running tests on me. At this time, tears started coming to my eyes and said, oh, my God, something's very serious is going on. I said, God, don't let this happen like this. What is my mom going to think? What about my daughter, God? And I remember just laying in the hospital bed, and I remember calling my mom, but I could not tell my mom what was going on with me because I know that she'll be worried about me. So I didn't say anything. I just said, hey, listen, I'm in the hospital, but I'm going to be okay. And I remember calling my daughter's mom, and I told my daughter's mother, I said, hey, listen, I got hurt playing football, and right now I cannot move. At this time, I could not move from the waist down. And I remember being in the hospital, and my daughter's mom came to check on me, and the way she looked at me when she saw me, it was just like disbelief on her face. Because I didn't know what physical state my body was in. I was losing weight. I was losing muscle. I wasn't able to eat. And I had my friends who came to see me in the hospital as well, and they said, man, you lost so much weight, I thought I was dying. And I said, I just had tears because I could not get up. I could not move. And the way people were looking at me was so pitiful. And I said, God, I don't want to be like this. I said, what am I going to do, God? I can't even hold my daughter. She's just 1 year old at the time. And this was 16 years ago. And I remember doctors coming in and saying, hey, listen, Mr. Coleman, you've been like this for 7 days now. We have no other option but to operate on you. They came in, they felt my legs. And they said, we'll be back tomorrow morning, which was a Saturday. If the inflammation have not went down in your spine by that time, we have no other option but to operate in order for you having a chance to walk again. At the time I was 27 years old, I said, God, I'm too young. I don't want nobody cutting on me, Lord. I said, God, and I made a vow to God. See, I always believed in God. But did I take God real serious? Not until I was in that situation. I would always go out and party on Saturday, but every Sunday I would go to church. See, I was playing, it's like I was playing both sides of the fence. So sometimes I feel like that, hey, in order for God to get your attention, he not only have to sit you down, he have to lay you down. So I feel like God laid me down, and I had no other option but to lay there in that bed and look up at God and say, God, and call on God and say, God, help me. And that's what I had to do. I said, God, I made a vow to God. I said, God, if you heal me, God, I will do whatever you want me to do. See, sometimes when we're going through situations, God have to get our attention, and all he wants to do is to make a vow. I said, God, just heal me, God. I will do whatever you want me to do. And by me making that vow, I remember the doctors coming in the next day. They came in, they felt my legs, they looked at me, and one of the doctors looked back at the other doctor. They couldn't believe it. Just had this look on their face like, we were just here last night, and this situation was in a worse situation. I remember them walking over to the side of the room, and they conversed for a moment. And they turned and looked at me, and they said, Mr. Coleman, we don't have to operate. And that was the moment I knew that God was truly real. I said, God, you are truly real. I believe in your power, God. I know, God, that you are amazing, God. So I made a vow to God, and I could not go back on that vow. So you ask me, what am I saying? I'm saying that, hey, listen, no matter what you go through in life, you just got to believe. You got to pray, and sometimes you got to make a vow to yourself and to God that you're going to keep going no matter what. See, while I was laying in that bed, I wasn't giving up. I saw myself walking again. I saw myself holding my daughter. I saw myself running again. And after that, a few months went by. It was very difficult for me to walk. I could not even stand up straight. So when I walk, I would walk with like a hunch in my back. And it took me 6 months to rehab. 6 months to rehab, but I said, hey, I was determined to keep going. And that's what I did. So when times get hard and you feel like you want to give up, don't give up. I want you to remember this story. I want you to keep going. Don't stop. Don't quit, because there's someone depending on you.